Hey family, welcome back to the Chiron Intensive. I am Kiera and I am your host for this evening. Shout out to Zeta for giving me a mental health break the last week. Tonight we will be talking about being the black sheep, the misunderstood one, the one who questions too much, feels too deeply, and refuses to settle for the survival scripts passed down to you. What if I told you that being the black sheep is not a curse? It's actually the very thing that positions you to become the GOAT, the greatest of all time in your lineage, the one who breaks down the pattern, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. So let's get into it. And just to remind you, you can check us out over on www.groundedstars.com. You can also check us out over on Substack. So if you are listening right now and you've ever been labeled different, rebellious, too emotional, or hard to deal with, you're probably the black sheep in your family. But let me be very clear, that label usually comes from people who are more comfortable with control than the truth. Let's be honest, you became the black sheep because you stopped pretending. You stopped following the rules that made everyone else comfortable but left you miserable. In many Black and marginalized families, this role often begins in childhood. When you start asking questions too early, you start that why too early. Why can't I cry? Why can't I speak up? Why do I have to respect people who hurt me? Why does love look like control? And instead of answering those questions with compassion, your family may have answered with silence, punishment, or shame. Because your awakening threatens the system that raised them. So being the black sheep isn't about rebellion, it's about revelation. You're the first one to see the cracks in the family mirror. You're the first one who decides that pain doesn't have to be inherited. That's your power, and it's also the reason they fear you. Let's talk about the emotional cost of being the black sheep, because that in itself is very lonely, it's very isolating, and it often comes with guilt, with shame, and it kind of whispers, maybe I am the problem. You start doubting yourself, you shrink in family spaces, you go quiet to avoid conflict, or you over-explain yourself just to be understood. You might even find yourself overachieving because if you can just prove your worth, maybe they'll finally love you, right? I know for me, it shows up as anger because for so long, I've been gaslit, and for so long, I've been lied to and made to believe some sort of narrative, and other people have been made to believe a narrative about me, and it's simply not true. But I have learned to turn my anger into motivation, and I've used that as fuel. And here's one thing. Proving yourself to people committed to understanding you is emotional labor. And it's going to wear you down. You'll never be compensated for it because you can't earn love in a space that's allergic to your authenticity. So the emotional tax, the exhaustion, the guilt, the grief, it's real. But it's also that you've been loving in a system that didn't know how to love you back. And they just may downright refuse to love you back. And that means your empathy still works. And that's your superpower. So now let's zoom out for just a moment. In Black families in particular, the black sheep role has cultural and historical roots. Think about it. Survival required obedience. We spoke about obedience in our previous episode. Generations before us didn't always have the freedom to question authority. Our ancestors lived in a system that punished individuality. Enslaved people couldn't speak up without risk, couldn't rest without judgment, couldn't dream without danger. And we also spoke about how historically slaves were often hung for being smart, for speaking up, for standing up for themselves. And remember that your voice, your authenticity, your truth is your most powerful asset. So again, enslaved people could not speak up without risk. They could not rest without judgment, and they could not dream without danger. So when you grow up in a family that says, don't question me, or that's just how it is, it's not random. It is ancestral conditioning. Control was once safety. Silence was once protection. But here's the healing truth. What kept them alive isn't what will help you thrive. And that's where your purpose as the black sheep begins. You are the evolution. You are what survival prayed for. That's not easy to carry. It's very heavy. And again, it can be very lonely. Sometimes we don't even realize we've taken on this role. So let's go through a few signs. And I want you to listen for yourself, your past, and maybe even your inner child. You are the emotional one, the too sensitive person who notices everything. Okay. Or 2, you feel really, really drained after family gatherings because you can sense unspoken tension. 3, you get labeled as selfish for setting boundaries, angry for speaking up. Okay. 4, you've been called crazy or dramatic when speaking up or speaking your truth. 5, you've always been the peacemaker, the healer, or the one trying to make everyone understand each other. If that's you, I see you, because those are not flaws. Those are survival traits of a cycle breaker. They just don't fit the family's outdated emotional ecosystem. So how do you become the GOAT? Here's the good part, the transformation. You can't control that you were cast out. And I'm going to be very honest with you, because you've dealt with that unequal treatment in your family system, you may have to deal with this treatment in other groups as well, at work, at school, in group settings. You may often feel like you just don't belong. And it's because your roots have set this feeling up for you. So again, you can't control that. When your family calls you the black sheep, that's their way of saying you don't fit their illusion, their delusion. But when you step into your truth, that's when you become the GOAT. How? Let's break that down. Number 1, learn to validate yourself. You no longer need permission to exist. Your healing, your boundaries, your quiet days, they don't need approval. Validation starts inside. Number 2, turn rejection into direction. The places where you were excluded are the same spaces where you'll build your empire. That business idea, that art, that story you've been suppressing, that's the language of liberation. Use what broke you to break through. Number 3, find or create your own tribe. Being the black sheep means you get to choose your flock. If you have family members who are on your side, that's awesome. That's great. But sometimes the family may band against you because you're not willing to put up with the facade. Okay. And that's where your chosen family comes in. The friends that you make, the mentors that you meet, and the peers who understand your journey, that's your pasture now. Feed each other, grow together. And number 4, stay rooted in purpose, not proving. Every time you feel tempted to prove yourself, pause and ask, who am I trying to convince? If it's someone who refuses to see your growth, redirect that energy back to your purpose. If it's someone who constantly tries to provoke you to be angry, to say, oh, look, I told you they're crazy. I told you. Use that as fuel, use that as energy, and stay away from that person. Becoming the GOAT isn't about outshining anyone except the old you. It's about outgrowing the pain that was meant to define you. So here's what I believe. Every single family has a healer. Usually that healer is the black sheep, the one who is not going to fall for the facade, the one who is going to tell the truth, the person who is going to point out the toxicity. A chosen one who speaks up and shows up to break the silence, the shame, and the cycles, that person is often going to look like the black sheep. But spiritually, the black sheep is the shepherd. You lead by leaving. You heal by existing, and your peace becomes the generational blueprint for everyone who comes after you. And trust and believe, sometimes you are going to have to cycle back in order to find your way forward. And that is normal. And it's okay. Sometimes you have to take 2 steps back in order to make that forward step. And that's normal. It's human. It's okay. Do not beat yourself up about it. So if you've ever cried in isolation, thinking nobody understands, I need you to hear me when I say you are not behind. You're just building differently. The black sheep walks a harder road, but that road leads to freedom. And that's worth every misunderstood season. Before we do close, I want you to take a deep breath and then pause for 5 seconds. Let's go. Now repeat after me. Even if you're whispering it to yourself in your room, in your car, or on your walk, say it with your chest. I am not the problem for seeing the problem. I am not broken for choosing peace. I am not rebellious for wanting rest. I am the answered prayer of the ones before me. If you have ever been called the black sheep, wear it with pride, because sheep follow, but the goat always, always, always climbs. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's what we're doing. And please remember to check us out over at Grounded Stars and join our community so that we can talk about this together. Thank you for listening to the Chiron Intensive. Zeta will be back next week. If tonight's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that they are not alone in their healing journey. Follow us wherever you stream your podcast and visit www.groundedstars.com to explore our workshops, courses, and community spaces. I am Kiara, and until next time, keep healing loudly. You are never meant to blend in, and you were born to break through.